Natasha and Her Illegitimate Child in a Muslim Society. A novel by Dr. A. Ahmed. This is an intriguing epic story which resonates with love, resilience, courage, and sacrifice. Before we dive into the tapestry of the story, I would like to remind the reader that this novel has been narrated in 2 books. Book 2. Copyrights. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer, who may quote brief paragraphs for a review to be printed in a public newspaper, general magazine, school journal, or university article. This novel is a work of fiction, but the entire story is based on the real life of a Muslim family. All names, characters, places, and events are either the product of the author's imagination or used literary. Therefore, any resemblance to actual people, living or dead, events or locales is merely coincidental. Chapter 47. The Cruel End of the Evil Father. By the time the arrest warrant has been issued against him, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din had already become one of the Muslim leaders of the notorious terrorist group of Al-Shabaab, which is a branch of Al-Qaeda in Somalia. Most of the members of that group are Somali young men who were born and brought up in Western countries like the USA, Canada, Australia, France, Germany, the Netherlands, and the UK, and moved from those countries and joined the Islamic Mujahideen group, which has its base in Mogadishu city. The leaders of Al-Shabaab always consider those young Muslim fighters as great assets and therefore take full advantages of them. Those young men first would be trained in military combat and making of bombs, and then would be sent to the Western countries where they were born to carry out terrorist activities through suicidal missions. Likewise, the fugitive father Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din became a great asset for that notorious terrorist group. Shortly after his arrival in Mogadishu city, he began to plan his attack on the Western countries. Through their informants and spies in Somalia, the RCMP were informed what had happened to the fugitive Muslim father Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din, who raped his daughter Natasha and attempted to murder her, and then he fled out of Canada. The following are the pieces of the secret intelligence, which have been wired through emails by the Somali informants in Mogadishu city to the police of Calgary. The notorious womanizer, child abuser, and daughter rapist Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din fell in insurmountable problems with some Somali terrorist leaders. His excessive obsession of women had led him to forsake and divorce his former 4 Muslim wives, his Pakistani spouse in Calgary, his Egyptian young wife in Cairo, his Eritrean child bride in Asmara, and his Nigerian underage girl in Lagos, and looked for a set of other 4 child brides in Somalia. After he fled from Asmara to Mogadishu, he knew that he would put himself in elevated risk of being arrested and extradited to Canada if he tried to visit any of his 3 Muslim wives, who were living with his children in Eritrea, Nigeria, and Egypt. Of course, his Pakistani wife in Canada became forever out of his reach. Accordingly, he picked up his cell phone, called his 4 Muslim wives one after another, and pronounced their divorce 3 times. He knew that according to the Islamic Sharia, the Muslim husband can divorce his wife at any time without giving reasons for his divorce. The power to divorce in the Sharia is in the hand of the husband, and the wife will not be able to divorce her husband unless there is a legitimate reason, and that reason must be accepted and approved by the judge of the Islamic court. After divorcing his 4 Muslim wives, the notorious polygamist and child abuser married 4 Somali underage girls in 1 year time. The youngest wife was 9-year-old, and the oldest wife was 15 years of age. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din picked up those 4 small girls from extremely poor Somali families. Those poor families sold their daughters rather than married them to the wealthy Sudanese man. For some time, the notorious womanizer and child abuser was satisfied with those 4 underage brides. His troubles started when he saw a young Somali wife of another Muslim terrorist leader. The woman was one of the most beautiful women that Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din had ever seen in his life. When he saw her, he lusted after her sexy body and coveted her marvelous beauty and charm. By hook or by crook, he determined to get that beautiful Somali woman. However, he knew and understood that, if he slept with her and got caught, he would be stoned to death according to the Sharia because he was a married man. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din wished that he would have a license like his prophet. According to his biography, whenever the Prophet Muhammad cast his eyes on a beautiful married woman and lusted after her sexy body, he could take her from her husband and marry her and have halal sex with her. Her Muslim husband, whether he liked it or not, has to divorce her and allow his prophet to marry her and have sex with her in the halal way. Furthermore, the Quran allows each Muslim man to have up to 4 wives at the same time except Muhammad, Surah Al-Nisa 4, verse 3. The Prophet was permitted to have any number of wives, and that is why he had 13 wives at the same time plus 3 slave girls. Allah had given no other Muslim man such a privilege except his darling messenger Muhammad. Despite that restriction, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din disclosed his evil intention to one of his Somali personal assistants. His private counselor told him he could get that woman only if her husband was dead and gone to paradise to enjoy his 72 virgins. Accordingly, he should never dream of getting that lovely Somali Layla if her husband was still alive. The notorious womanizer knew her Somali husband was younger and stronger than him, and he might live forever or outlive him. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din was ready to do anything to get that beautiful woman. Then he decided to get rid of the lovely Somali young woman's husband and get her. He accused her husband of being an agent to the West and a spy to the neighboring Christian country, Ethiopia. He then faked some false pieces of evidence and convinced some of his terrorists to get rid of the alleged traitor and enemy of Allah and Somalia. In that way, the men of the Somali husband of that beautiful wife had been ambushed, invaded, and killed by the Muslim terrorists of Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din. The dangerous Sudanese terrorist learned that evil idea from the example of the greatest military commander of the troops of Islam, Khalid ibn al-Walid. Khalid had killed the Muslim leader of the tribe of Bani Yarbu, Malik bin Nuwayra, because he had a lovely wife. Khalid's motive was to kill the leader Malik ibn Nuwayra and then take his wife, Layla bint al-Minhal, because she was an exceptionally beautiful woman. On the same day he spilled the blood of her Muslim husband Malik ibn Nuwayra, Khalid ibn al-Walid raped his lovely wife Layla bint al-Minhal. Likewise, on the same night the Somali leader had been killed, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din took his exceptionally beautiful wife Layla as a war captive and forced her on bed against her wish. While he was raping her, the Somali widow was weeping for the brutal slaughter of her murdered husband. However, by killing that Somali leader and raping his beautiful wife Layla, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din had started a never-ending honor feud. The Somali brothers of that slain man heard about the murder of their sibling and the nasty allegations that had been falsely laid on him. They came to know that the man who murdered their brother was the one who had raped his beautiful wife on the same night he killed him. Accordingly, an internal war began between the men of those angry brothers and the terrorists of Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din. It was one of the bloodiest wars ever fought in that lawless land of Somalia. As many as he lost from his mujahideen, Sheikh Yasser was able to kill many terrorists of his enemies. His enemies were able to convince other tribal leaders to join them in fighting against the bloodthirsty Sudanese murderer. When those tribal leaders joined that blood feud, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din felt his terrorists were outnumbered by those thousands of Somali fighters. He understood that his mujahideen fighters would not be able to defeat those Somali tribal chieftains and their numerous terrorists who joined hands against him. Therefore, he had decided to flee out of Mogadishu city and hide into the mountains and remain there until the anger of those leaders was pacified. Before he fled, he proposed to ransom his freedom with money, but his enemies rejected his offer of ransom blood. According to the Sharia, the family of a murdered relative could choose between the execution of the murderer or receiving ransom money. When the relatives of the slain leader refused the ransom money, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din with his remaining mujahideen warriors fled to the mountains and hid in caves. The resentful brothers and the tribal leaders pursued them and took the fight to the mountains. Once again, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din had been forced to continue that honor feud. Although he was outnumbered, he continued to fight for his life. Eventually, the notorious womanizer, child abuser, and daughter rapist was raided, ambushed, and taken captive. Those vengeful Somali brothers decided to avenge the blood of their slain brother and the honor of his wife by killing Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din through the most painful and cruel way the person could ever be killed. They blinded his eyes, broke his legs and hands, and left him in front of his cave to die slowly. Then they guarded the area surrounding that cave so that no one of his escaping and hiding terrorists could come and rescue him. Those Somali Muslim terrorist leaders had learned that cruel punishment from the example of their Prophet Muhammad. According to his biography, the Prophet of Islam had punished some Muslim apostates and murderers in the same evil manner. Firstly, he had their hands and feet cut off. Secondly, he ordered some nails, which were heated and passed over their eyes. And then he left those blinded and hands and feet amputated men in the Hara, a hot rocky land in Medina City. They asked for water, and nobody provided them with water till they died. Sahih al-Bukhari, Volume 4, Hadith number 52. After blinding his eyes and breaking his hands and legs, the wicked Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din had spent 3 days suffering before finally his evil soul departed from his sinful body and descended into hell. Before his death, he suffered from the blazing heat of the sun of Africa during the day, and during the night the mosquitoes and other bloodsuckers sucked his unholy blood. He cried and begged his enemies to shoot him in the head or spare his life by giving him water to drink and food to eat, but instead, they mocked and reviled him. They kept reminding him of the evil that he had done to their innocent brother and his wife. During those difficult 3 days, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din remembered all those victims he had cheated, abused, tortured, murdered, and the rape of his own daughter Natasha. Despite that, the evil man did not repent of his many sins. In that cruel way, the wicked Sheikh Yasser Satan al-Din died a slow and painful death. After he died, his body was decomposed, and the worms covered it. Then the eagles and jackals of the air feasted on his stinking flesh. After the ravenous birds consumed his flesh, his Somali enemies came back, poured kerosene on his bones, and set them on fire. And that is how the evil tyrant Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din had been killed and wiped out of existence, and his sinful soul descended into Tartarus and kept in chains in the bottomless pit until he would stand before the white throne of Christ and be tried and condemned. Eventually, he would be cast into the lake of fire and spend his eternity with his false prophet, the Antichrist, and Satan and their followers among fallen angels and condemned humanity. Chapter 48. Oops, she did it again. Dr. Natasha read the above criminal report of Yasser Saif al-Dawla while her hands were shaking and her body was perspiring. She has become extremely troubled when she discovered that she had unwittingly married her brother again. She had never thought or had slight doubt that she and her lover Dr. Hassan Yasser Saif al-Dawla are real siblings. The criminal report of the husband of her mother-in-law Daria, Noor al-Huda, has revealed that the husband Hassan and his wife Natasha are brother and sister. Once again, Dr. Natasha found herself has been fallen in the same abominable incestual marriage she had before with her late brother Wahid. The only difference, her former husband Wahid was her real brother, while her second husband Hassan is her half-brother. This time, however, Dr. Natasha has decided not to repeat the same mistake she and her husband Wahid had done before. She remembered what had happened to her when she revealed her abominable incestual marriage to the Muslim psychiatrist Salma Abdul Aziz Abbas. That wicked Arab psychiatrist had maliciously accused her of suffering from dangerous mental problem and sent her to a mental hospital where she was treated as a dangerous lunatic woman and got locked up for a quite long time. Due to those strong medications and electric shocks, she was turned into a vegetable. Those needless treatments had wiped out her brain and caused her to completely lose her memory. This time, Dr. Natasha is a highly educated and more mature woman. Therefore, she has decided not to fall again in the hands of other Muslim crooks. She has correctly anticipated that her enemies, the Muslim feminists, are going to cast some doubts on her claim of unwittingly marrying her brother again. As Professor Natasha has anticipated as soon as she approached the prison authority and demanded a DNA siblingship tests to be conducted on her and her imprisoned husband, their case leaked to the media. Before the result of the DNA siblingship is out, the Muslim feminists shouted from the rooftops and accused Professor Natasha of orchestrating new conspiracy against Islam and Muslims. One of the outspoken Islamic feminists drafted a long article and published it in one of the most popular newspapers in the city of Toronto. She titled her university article, "Oops, She Did It Again." She accused Professor Dr. Natasha of intentionally traveling to Saudi Arabia, purposely falling in love with her half-brother Dr. Hassan, cunningly beguiling him, enticing him through her beauty, luring him through the promise of taking him to Canada, and deceptively marrying him because she wanted to defame the religion of Islam. In her newspaper's article, the Muslim feminist claimed that most probably Professor Natasha somehow came to know her half-brother Hassan Yasser Saif al-Dowlah was working as a medical doctor in King Fahd Royal Hospital in Riyadh City. Therefore, she traveled with her Christian brother Wahid to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and both pretended to be Muslims and husband and wife. After performing the Hajj rituals in Makkah City as pretenders, they traveled to the capital of Saudi Arabia. Over there, they had maliciously orchestrated their evil conspiracy which caused the innocent Muslim man, Dr. Hassan Yasser Saif al-Dowlah, to fall victim in the web of its deceit. The Muslim feminists stated that it would be 1 out of 1 million chances that the same sister could accidentally meet her other brother and unwittingly fall in love and marry him again. Furthermore, the feminist writer of the newspaper's column contested authenticity of the video of the stoning of the adulterous Sudanese wife Siham Nasir Saif al-Dowlah. She mentioned in the article the trial of the convicted wife of Dr. Hassan, who was allegedly caught red-handed while committing adultery with her lover, was a fake story. It was a fabricated tale which had been concocted by Dr. Natasha and her Christian brother Wahid. It was meant to implicate an innocent Sudanese wife and her Muslim husband. She guessed that it was Dr. Natasha who fell in love with Dr. Hassan and led him to cheat on his Muslim wife Siham. When the wife discovered that her husband was cheating on her with Natasha and planning secretly to marry her as his wife number 2 and immigrate with her to Canada, she squabbled with him and demanded to be divorced. After divorcing his Sudanese wife Siham, Dr. Hassan married Dr. Natasha as his Muslim wife number 2. Dr. Natasha is a Christian woman who is pretending to be a Muslima and putting on the Islamic abaya and hijab. The cheating Christian woman misled Dr. Hassan and made him to believe she was a Muslim like him. He did not know she was a Muslim pretender until he married her in a mosque in Dubai City and then immigrated with her to Canada. Dr. Hassan discovered later that his Christian wife was not only a pretender, but she was using him to achieve a hidden conspiracy against Islam and Muslims. This bitter fact led him to cheat on her with another Sudanese woman. His new girlfriend is a Muslim divorcee known as Ilham Salah. Then Dr. Hassan married Ilham as his Muslim wife number 3. On the day of their Islamic halal marriage in a small town in North Canada, the police raided the wedding hall and arrested the groom, Hassan, but his Muslim bride Ilham was not apprehended. Dr. Hassan was accused of practicing his Islamic polygamy in a secular country like Canada. The groom Hassan did not know that polygamy is illegal and a crime punishable by the law in Canada until he got arrested in front of his Muslim bride Ilham and the wedding guests. He was arrested because he married another woman while he was still bound by his marriage with his Christian wife Natasha. It was his wife Dr. Natasha who informed the police about the unlawful marriage of her husband Hassan. She gave the Canadian police the time, date, and place of the Islamic wedding of her husband. At present, her husband is in jail on remand awaiting the court to pass its verdict on his polygamous marriage. If he is convicted, which is likely to happen, he will be handed down 2 years imprisonment term plus a fine up to $10,000. In addition, the groom Hassan is accused of assaulting a police officer and rendering him handicapped for life. This atrocious crime took place in the apartment of his second Muslim wife Ilham Salah. The suspect Hassan was initially tried and incarcerated for 5 years. However, he was soon retried when the attacked police officer recently succumbed to his life-threat wounds and died in the hospital. Therefore, the Criminal Court of Calgary tripled the punishment of Mr. Hassan Yasser Saif al-Dowlah and sentenced him to 15 years. Sadly, Dr. Natasha used Dr. Hassan in achieving her dirty game of defaming Islam and finally destroyed his successful medical career and sent him behind bars for life. The conspiracy did not stop on destroying his medical profession, but she came up recently with the nauseating accusation of practicing incestual marriage with his half-sister Natasha. The feminist author of the above newspaper article is a visiting professor in the Department of Religious Studies at the University of Toronto. She is a Muslim by birth from a Pakistani background. She knew Dr. Natasha personally and had many debates with her on the status of women in Islam. In each debate, Professor Natasha had refuted her unsubstantial defense of the misogynistic teachings of Islam and rendered her a crashing defeat. Therefore, she bore deep-seated hatred towards her so-called bitter opponent and enemy of Islam number one. The Muslim professor concluded her newspaper report by stating that she had obtained her information about the conspiracies of Professor Natasha from her indicted Muslim husband Dr. Hassan Yasser Saif al-Dowlah when she visited him in prison. Chapter 49. The Second Incestual Marriage Trial. Nevertheless, the real insurmountable problem that Professor Natasha has faced isn't with the false accusations of the Muslim professor and other Islamic feminists. Their words bore no weight among her academic circles. No one believed the article that the Muslim feminist had published in the newspaper and posted it in her Facebook on the internet. Many people knew that she had twisted and distorted the second incestual marriage of Dr. Natasha with her half-brother Dr. Hassan. The crucial problem arose from her mother-in-law, Mrs. Duria Noor al-Huda, who denied everything the police report has mentioned about her late husband. She emphatically rejected the police criminal report and said the religious leader Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din and the righteous saint of God Yasser Saif al-Dowlah are two distinct persons. Also, she refused to believe that her Muslim son Hassan and his Christian wife Natasha are real siblings. Furthermore, she claimed her righteous husband died and buried in Khartoum City in Sudan, and his holy shrine is visited every year by over 1 million Muslims. Therefore, she concluded that the evil religious leader who got killed and his corpse was burned to ashes in Mogadishu City in Somalia is neither her husband nor the father of her son Hassan. Then the furious mother-in-law decided to take her daughter-in-law to court and accuse her of trying to spread nasty accusation against her late righteous husband and her good son. The threat of Mrs. Duria Noor al-Huda led Dr. Natasha to visit her husband Hassan in prison and showed him what the police criminal report has mentioned about their late father and what blood relationship she has with him. Like his mother, the son denied everything that has been mentioned in the criminal report about his late father. He refused to accept the bitter fact that he had married his sister, uncovered her nakedness, and had a baby son with her. Then the Muslim husband reminded his Christian wife what he told her before when he came to know she unwittingly fell in love with her brother Wahid, married him, and allowed him to uncover her nakedness. And the two siblings had a baby daughter through abominable incestual marriage. Hassan also came to know Natasha was raped by her Muslim father and had with him a son through incest. He told her that if her Christian religion is true, then her God would not have allowed her to have sex with her own brother and biological father. He then told her about a story of an innocent Muslim girl who was kidnapped from home by a bad woman when she was a baby. When she grew up, that girl became a prostitute. One day she met her brother, whom she had not seen since childhood. Her brother could not be able to do sex with her even though both wanted to have sex. The brother came many times to the brothel where his sister was working as a prostitute and made several attempts to have sex with her, but he could not. His penis remained cold as if it weren't part of his body. He was able to have sex with other prostitutes in that brothel except with his own sister. Finally, the Muslim brother investigated the matter and discovered that the girl was his own sister, and that was why the exalted Allah did not allow him to have sex with her. He discovered his blood relationship with his sister through conducting a siblingship DNA test. He then came to know that his sister was a victim and rescued her from that evil woman who kidnapped her when she was a baby girl and turned her into a prostitute. The husband Hassan had also told his wife Natasha about another story of a Muslim man who unknowingly married his own mother, and similar miracle happened. At that time, the Christian wife Dr. Natasha refused to believe those stories of her husband Dr. Hassan and referred to some cases in the Holy Bible where Abraham married his own half-sister Sarah and David's son, Absalom, had sex with his sister, Tamar. Unfortunately, those biblical examples she referred to them at that time turned out to be strengthening her husband's argument rather than refuting it. But now the cat is out of the bag. She discovered through the criminal report of their father that she and her husband are real siblings. Still, the brother had sex with his sister and fathered a son with her. Now it became a saving grace for her imprisoned husband and his stubborn mother, who wanted to lodge a complaint against her. Accordingly, the denial of her mother-in-law led the daughter-in-law to apply for a siblingship DNA test to be conducted on them to determine whether they have a blood relationship as brother and sister or not. Though the husband Hassan refused to accept the challenge of his wife Natasha, still the court issued an order for the DNA test to be conducted as soon as possible. Before undertaking out a DNA test, the Christian wife Natasha did a quick search on the internet through her computer and came to know that a sibling DNA test, without their biological parents available for testing, might not be conclusive. When the issue of siblingship is in question, the recommended method to determine whether individuals are true biological siblings is to test their parents. DNA paternity and maternity testing will provide conclusive results of 99.9% accuracy. In situations where the alleged parents are unavailable for testing, a DNA siblingship test can be performed to analyze the relationship of biological siblings. It is more than possible to test the siblings on a DNA comparison to work out whether there is a relationship there. At first, Natasha came to know that the sibling DNA test result will not be 100% reliable and it can give only a probable answer. She still decided to do the test. A DNA sibling test compares the genetic material, DNA, of one person to that of another person to determine the likelihood that they are related biologically as siblings. In most cases, sibling tests are performed to determine paternity, whether or not the two individuals have the same biological mother. This often happens in situations where the possible father is deceased, incarcerated, unwilling, or otherwise unavailable to participate in a paternity test. After she came to know the result of the sibling DNA test result will not be 100% reliable and it can give only a probable answer, the Christian wife has protested against it and demanded a parental DNA test instead. She contended that the sibling DNA test result may not be conclusive and gives a result based on a high probability, while the paternity DNA test will be conclusive and gives a 99.9% accuracy result. After viewing the Calgary Police criminal report, Dr. Natasha remembered that she previously underwent a parental DNA test to determine whether her rapist was her biological father Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din or not, and also whether he fathered through her incestual rape her son Sammy. Therefore, she expected the same laboratory which conducted on her and her brother Wahid the paternity DNA to still have a DNA sample of their late father. Then her imprisoned husband Hassan has been ordered by the Court of Toronto to be shipped over through a police car to Calgary City to conduct the DNA paternity test. At the same time, his wife Natasha has been flown by a plane from Toronto to Calgary to undergo the same paternity DNA test. Many people attended that controversial trial. The majority of them are the intellectual Muslim feminists. A quite big number of Muslim students from universities and high schools came to court on that day. Some of them came all the way from Hamilton, Montreal, Quebec, and Ottawa. They all wanted to throw their rotten tomatoes and spoiled eggs on the so-called despicable Muslim apostate woman Professor Natasha, who time and again attacked their beautiful religion of Islam through her speeches, writings, debates, and trials. She claimed that incestual sex is allowed in Islam. She said that the Holy Quran in Surah Furqan 25, verse 54 permits the father to marry his own daughter, who is born through adultery. Likewise, the Muslim brother is allowed by the same verse to have sex with his sister who is born to their father out of adultery. Therefore, Dr. Natasha believed the Sharia allows the Muslim man to marry and have sex with his daughter, which he fathered her out of adultery, because such a blood relationship is not lawfully recognized in Islam. She referred to the words of the renowned Muslim commentator Al-Qurtubi. While commenting on Surah Al-Furqan 25, verse 54, Al-Qurtubi said the Muslim man can marry and have sex with his daughter born out of adultery because adultery will not establish a blood relationship, whether parental or siblingship. The second incestual marriage trial received wide media coverage more than the first one. The first trial was conducted to determine whether the husband Wahid and his wife Natasha are real siblings. In the first case, the result of the paternity DNA tests came out 99.9% accuracy. Therefore, it established without a shadow of a doubt that the two siblings Natasha and Wahid unwittingly married each other and had a child out of their incestual marriage. This second incestual marriage trial is to decide whether the wife Natasha and her husband Hassan are brother and sister or not. Most of the non-Muslim journalists came there to find out the result of the paternity DNA test. They wanted to know whether truly a brother and a sister got married and had a child, or it is just another fancy story that received unnecessary media coverage. The media wrote extensively about the former incestual marriage trial and made the populaces aware that the same wife is once again under investigation by the Court of Toronto. The court wants to determine whether the same sister as she claimed unwittingly fell in love and married her second brother Hassan. After the Court of Toronto has received the official paternity DNA test result from the laboratory of Calgary, it appeared that the wife Natasha's words are 99.9% accurate and confirmed by the result. The result showed that she has once again unwittingly married her own brother Hassan Yasser Saif al-Dawla. The result has also confirmed that the Muslim leader Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din and the so-called Holy Saint of God Yasser Saif al-Dawla is the same person. He fathered his daughter Natasha through adultery when he raped her underage mother at the age of 16. Moreover, he fathered his son Wahid through adultery when he raped his underage mother Natasha when she was 14-year-old. He was also the one who fathered his son Hassan through his second Islamic polygamous marriage with his Muslim wife Duriya, Noor al-Huda. Then the judge of the court has dissolved the marital relationship between the sister Natasha and her brother Hassan because incestual marriage is illegal in Canada. Based on the same result of the paternity DNA test, the church has also invalidated the matrimonial union between the Christian wife Natasha and the Muslim husband Hassan. The outcome of the second incestual marriage trial is a strong blow to the so-called intellectual Islamic feminists as well as to the Muslim students. None of them could cast a single rotten tomato or spoiled egg on her face. She walked out of the courtroom triumphantly with her head held up high in honor. Some of them hid their spoiled eggs and rotten tomatoes inside their pockets and school bags. The Muslim mother-in-law Duriya, Noor al-Huda, fled in terror out of Canada and flew back to Sudan to hide from the so-called disgraceful incestual marriage of her son and the nasty criminal record of her late husband. Prior to the finalization of the incestual marriage trial of her son Hassan and his wife Natasha, her second dispute over the inheritance of her late Muslim husband was decided upon by the Court of Calgary. Despite his evil criminal record, his daughter Natasha sided with his widow Mrs. Duriya and appointed to her a new lawyer. The kind Christian daughter-in-law knows her wicked Muslim mother-in-law hates her and calls her an uncircumcised, defiled, and infidel Christian woman. She even considered Natasha's son Wahid, who is her grandson, a bastard child. Despite that, the loving Christian daughter-in-law applied the commandment of her Lord Jesus Christ, who says, "Love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you." The Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 44. The secular court in Calgary City rejected the demand of the Sudanese widow Mrs. Duriya because polygamy is not recognized in Canada. The judge of the Canadian court ruled in favor of the Pakistani widow of the late Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din. The court accepted her as the sole wife and legal heir of the $5 million mansion of her late Muslim husband. As soon as her Muslim mother-in-law forsook her and returned to her country, Dr. Natasha decided to keep good relationship with her imprisoned brother Dr. Hassan. She wanted every now and then to visit him in his confinement and allow him to see his son Wahid. Sadly, her brother by then had been already brainwashed by the conspiracy theory which the Muslim feminist related to him during her jail visit. She made him believe that his Christian wife Dr. Natasha played that drama of brother-sister blood relationship because she wanted to attack Islam. She orchestrated that wicked conspiracy to prove to non-Muslims that Islam is a repugnant religion which justifies incestual marriage between the father and his daughter who was born out of adultery, and the Muslim brother can wed and sleep with his bastard sister. Furthermore, the Muslim professor told Dr. Hassan it was his Christian wife, Dr. Natasha, who informed the police about the date, place, and time of his second Islamic marriage with his Muslim bride Ilham Salah. From the beginning, she intended to expose him and destroy his life. Because of her, he landed behind bars and sentenced to 17 years prison term without the chance of applying for parole. Believing that his Christian wife Dr. Natasha is behind all his misfortunes and calamities, Dr. Hassan asked her never to visit him in prison again. Moreover, he said to her he disowned their child Wahid because he doesn't consider him to be a son. He rejected his blood relationship with him because he fathered him with her through adultery before he married her in Dubai City. In addition to that, he said from his confinement he contacted some religious leaders, including the imam of the biggest mosque in Toronto City, and sought their Islamic advices. All of them collectively issued fatwas endorsing the incestual marriage of the Muslim brother with his bastard sister, who was born to their father out of adultery. This is due to the verse of the Holy Quran in Surah Al-Furqan 25, verse 54, which permits the father to marry his own daughter, who was born through adultery. Likewise, the Muslim brother is allowed by the same verse to have sex with his sister, who was born to their father out of adultery. Despite that, the Muslim husband Hassan told his Christian wife Natasha that he has divorced her thrice because she took him to court and revealed the past life of their late father Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Dawla. He still believed his father was a righteous Muslim saint and died in Sudan and not in Somalia, and his sacred shrine is visited annually by over 1 million Muslims. As soon as the incestual marriage trial was over, Dr. Natasha drafted a book about the many problems and tragedies that the misogynistic teachings of Islam have brought on her and caused to the other members of her family. It is another masterpiece and became an eye-opener to many people, especially women. She has decided to dedicate her life in bringing up her 3 children, Nadia, Sammy, and Wahid. Through the second incestual marriage trial, everybody came to know that her 3 children were born through incest. Her Christian brother Wahid had fathered her first daughter, Nadia. Her biological father Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din raped her and fathered her second-born child, Sammy, and her Muslim brother Hassan fathered her last-born son, Wahid. However, she knew she and her 3 children are innocent of the evils that had been done to them due to the misogynistic teachings of Islam. After returning to her teaching position at the University of Toronto, Professor Natasha continued to speak and write about women in Islam. She wrote and published many books and articles on the dire conditions of women in Muslim societies. Her writings and speeches made her loved by millions of people and hated by over 2 billion Muslims. Professor Natasha traveled all over the world and spoke in many major cities in Canada, the USA, the UK, France, Germany, Spain, the Netherlands, and other European countries. She also traveled and conducted speeches and debates on Australia, South Korea, Japan, China, India, Brazil, Argentina, Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa. Her powerful testimony and speeches resonated all over the world. Through her resilience and courage, she created paradigm shift among Muslim women as well as their male counterparts. She shook the foundation of Islam to the core. She became one of the most powerful female speakers on the issues of women in Muslim societies. She spoke and wrote out of knowledge as well as experience. No one could defeat her in a debate or refute her writings. She is well versed in the main 2 sacred texts of Islam, the Quran and Hadiths. Therefore, no one could challenge her speeches and writings because she witnessed the dire realities of those issues with her own eyes and lived them through the tragedies of her own family life. Everywhere Professor Dr. Natasha went, Muslim terrorists attempted to assassinate her, but their plots were always foiled by the police authorities. About the author of this novel. Dr. A. Ahmed is an author and scholar. He has 5 university certificates, BA, MA, and PhD in philosophy and comparative studies of religions from the University of Bombay in India, and a bachelor and a master of religious studies and philosophy from a university in Canada. He was born and brought up as a Muslim, but through his study of philosophy and comparative studies of religions, he converted to Christianity. He has a unique writing style that can break through any religious, social, and cultural barrier and reveal the truth as it is. Moreover, his books are based on first-hand eyewitness because he witnessed those dire conditions of Muslim women with his own eyes. He has written 25 books, but so far published 10 of them. His books have been written in English and translated by him in Arabic. All his books on the issues of women in Muslim societies and terrorism in Islam. His novels are available on his YouTube pages for free in English and Arabic.